So welcome everybody in another deep dive session. We are going to continue our discussion around the the mind. In last session, we discussed about the panch klesha, the five afflictions that causes the soul to go deep in the mud of karma. The karma is strengthened, the bondage of karma is strengthened by these five afflictions, the panch klesha. And what are those panch klesha? The avidya, which is the contrary knowledge, the raga, which is the attractions towards the worldly pleasures that we have already had. Raga is for repeatedly chasing the sensory happiness that you have already had. That is what is raga, meaning the happiness you have already had, and then when you are, let's say, at rest, and then again your mind starts saying, oh, I want that happiness, I want that pleasure, because you have had it before and it is attracting you again. That is what is called raga. And what is dvesha? The dvesha is the hatred towards the worldly sorrow, meaning somebody or something which has given you pain, and that pain runs in your mind even though that subject is not there, but it is running in your mind. And that's how you are kind of reinforcing your feeling of hatred for that subject, even though that subject is not there. That is what is called dvesha. And when that keeps running, then the moment that subject will come in front of you, your reaction will not be neutral to it, because you are already suffering with dvesha for that subject. So the moment subject comes near to you, you will reflect your dvesha against it. You will not be able to be neutral to it. All because of mind is carrying those raga and dvesha for the subject. The asmita. The asmita is about not realizing the true self as the spirit, but always identifying, or rather misidentifying, the self with the body and the thing that you are not. Abhinivesh is the fear of death. Now, because of all these, we happen to sometimes get involved, or rather most of the time get involved into unnecessary karma. There are some karma which are duty bound, which are necessary, which are prerequisites for running the worldly life. And then there are certain karma, certain deeds that were not necessary, but we still go and perform that. This is why the panch klesha, the five afflictions, are the one that causes to go deep in the mud of karma unnecessarily. Unnecessarily, we are strengthening our bondage of karma, all because of panch klesha. I hope that part is clear. Anybody has to add anything onto it? You want to reflect on something on this? Yeah.
हेलो विजय जी, नमस्कार। जय सतगुरु जी। मैं पुनीत बोल रहा हूँ। मैं अभी ज्वाइन किया हूँ, एक्चुअली पहली बार ये ज्वाइन किया हूँ। तो मुझे एक डाउट है, जो आपने राग के बारे में बोला।
Yes.
इसमें लिखा अट्रैक्शन टुवर्ड्स बर्डली प्लेजर्स।
Right.
क्या आप इसको एक बार दोबारा बताएंगे क्या?
Okay, sure. So in ancient scripture, it says Sukhanushai Raga, meaning when you follow, when you chase the sensory happiness that you have already had in your past. Let's say you ate a rasogulla, and now the feeling of the taste of rasagulla stays with you. You want to reproduce it. You ate it yesterday, but then today again you feel for it. You want to eat it again. So chasing after the sensory pleasure that you have had before is what is called raga. So rag and vairagya are the two opposite words. What is vairagya and what is rag? Rag is to always chase after the happiness which is very sensory, very physical, and to repeatedly go after it. Something that you have had before. But what is vairagya? Vairagya does not mean to leave the subject. Vairagya does not mean to not feel good when you're eating rasagulla. Of course not. When there is a beauty, you still appreciate the beauty. When there is a taste, you still appreciate the taste. As you are experiencing, you still appreciate everything as a beautiful creation, because the Creator Almighty is only being glorified when you appreciate it. But Vairagya, what Vairagya means is, while you appreciate the thing when you experience it, you just don't go after it, even though the subject is not in front of you. For example, you always have a routine um, of having meal every day, right? So you will continue to have meal every day. Meal will come to you and you will eat it. But whatever is served to you, if it is something very tasty, you appreciate it, not a problem. Next day, you're not served the same meal. You're served some different meal next day. But this time, you don't start recalling, oh, yesterday that meal was served. I, oh gosh, if I would have got the same meal today, it would have been really joyful. This very feeling of recalling the meal that was served, what made you recall that when some other meal was served to you? That means you're not in the present. You are getting attracted to something which is not in front of you, which happened yesterday, and you are trying to chase after that. You want that meal. You don't want to even taste the meal that is served to you. The moment it is served to you, you remembered that you had the craving and the liking and the kind of, there's some force from inside which is pulling you towards the meal that you had yesterday. So this very nature of getting pulled towards something that you have had in the past, some happiness that you have had in the past, and you're getting pulled towards that, this very force is called raga. Is that clear, Puneet ji?
हाँ जी, बट मेरे को एक क्वेश्चन है कि ठीक है, खाने के लिए आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड इट्स like the example you given for rasgulla or for any meal is okay. Now let's suppose I made something, okay,
Mhm.
and it got successful, okay,
Right.
and I had that feeling now that how does it feel when something gets successful,
Correct.
okay, and now
Mhm.
I want to continue running behind it to make it more successful, to reach out to more people, to make something like that again, to make it something like that, to make again to get more success. So
Right, right.
is it that is also raga?
No, it is not by that dimension. The raga is just for you. When you, let's say it doesn't happen, the raga is tested at the point when it doesn't happen. You wanted to reproduce something for maybe spreading it to others. Okay, you're not self-centered here. Rather, here you are centering on the vision of serving others. This is different thing. But when something that you've had or something that you did in the past, now you want to reproduce the same experience for yourself. And at that point, it doesn't happen. When it doesn't happen, how does it feel to you? If you feel unhappy about it because you really want it. Your craving is like it's like burning fire and you're not getting water to pacify it. So raga is like internal fire. It is something that starts burning within you. And if it doesn't happen, then you feel for it. Oh my God, I know I really wanted it, but it's not happening. So you start suffering with your raga. So raga is getting attached to the worldly happiness for yourself. Raga is very individual. Raga is not for the community. Raga is your personal feeling. Raga is your personal suffering, I would say. Raga is your personal suffering.
Yeah,
So
but that is also very much personal to me. If I make something and it was successful before, but now I'm not getting the same result again, and it's very personal to me, right?
right,
Then
right. Mhm.
correct.
So
Like
now,
I am in the IT company,
right,
right? And let's
right,
suppose I made one app and it
right,
got successful. And
correct,
now again I made one more app.
right,
Personally, I made it and it's
right,
not getting successful. I had that feeling. How does it feel to make one app and become successful and another
right,
one which is not getting success? The same success which I got for the another app. Now
right.
that success is very personal to me.
Correct, correct, correct. I understand your
So
point
I
now.
have that craving. I have that fire inside me
Right,
that is actually kind of burning me. Like why it is not
right, right, right. No, no, that's
right. So
correct.
I
Very
that
good
is
point.
called raga, right?
Yes, yes. So Punitji, just think about it this way, that what is raga doing? The reason the raga has been asked, or rather, raga has been labeled as your enemy for the fact that it causes suffering to you, right? Raga never gives you happiness. Raga gives you only suffering. What makes you happy is the experience of the subject. But raga only gives you suffering. When the subject is not in front of you, or the event is not in front of you, if the circumstances is not in front of you, you're suffering. So this very suffering is just because of our attachment with the worldly event, worldly subjects, and this very attachment is what is called raga. So you're right. In a way, you're right. Now, if you ask me, so is it not going to hamper my growth if I don't have raga? I would say that you are more efficient if your mind is in your control. Raga actually hampers your attention towards something else. Raga means you wanted to do now something even more beautiful, something better. But just because of raga, you are attached, you are stuck with something that you did before. And because of that, you're not fully efficient. But if you are in control, fully efficient, you could do something better maybe. So raga is always labeled as an enemy for you. It is hampering your full productivity. It is hampering your state of peacefulness, blissfulness within you. And so it is always said that if we really want to be fully efficient and make the best use of our time, we need to live in the present moment and just do our best. Whatever you try to achieve, just concentrate on the action, just concentrate on what is needed to be done, not what you did before and why that is not happening. In the sense, the why part of it, why it is not happening, should be in the present context, that why it is not happening right now, what am I missing in my present effort which is not making it happen. If you stay focused on the present context, then it is not raga. The raga is when something that you did before and now you have craving for it, which is hampering you to reproduce something else because you're stuck to something. So this is what is called raga. So yes, your understanding is correct. If you're suffering with it, then that is called raga only. Yes.
God.
Uh,
Okay.
Jai
So,
Gurudev.
Yeah.
Vijay Kumarji, I don't know whether I should interfere now or.
Yeah, yeah, please, please. Yeah,
I just had a thought.
right,
See, we are not perfect beings yet. We are still evolving. And to
correct.
function in the real world, we have raga dvesha. Only thing is we should not become a slave of the raga dvesha. So we have to manage them. So in the business world, we have we have a desire to earn our living. So we are working with some goal, but we should not become enslaved to that goal. Maybe that's where I think the boundary remains. So when you are a yogi, then raga dvesha is completely you should get detached. But uh, or without karma phala expectation, you will be just do functioning. But in the real, as we are still evolving, we are still functioning in the real world. So so one goal could be to just to manage the raga dvesha and not to become an enslaved to them. So that's how I see raga dvesha. Thank you.
Yeah, 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 very good. Yeah,
Jai Sadgurudev, Vijayji, this is Madan Bhandari.
Ji, Ji, Madan ji.
Uh, yes, in the same vein as the previous question, so I'm just trying to relate other experiences. Like, in the past, you made profit in a certain activity and you want reputations and, uh, make it better, like make more money, more profit from similar activity. And on the flip side, if you incurred losses in a certain activity and that comes and haunts you, bothers you, and every time you try to do something similar, you get fearful that what if you are going to incur losses again, uh, and you avoid the activity because of that past event, even though those events are gone, they are not there anymore, but your mind, you're still stuck into those previous experiences and cannot come out of it. And then my question would be that whether it falls in the category of raga. And on the second question related to this is like, how does meditation help in coming out of this kind of feeling? So I think by an extension, this fear, depression, sadness, and
Right.
all those negative feelings that built up because of. So do they fall into the similar categories? And does these five kleshas somehow relate to that? And whether just the regular meditation helps in getting rid of those, or you should be doing something over and above that. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very fantastic example, Madan ji. So yes, that falls into the category of raga. And now the question is that will meditation help? See, this is the beauty of meditation. Not only meditation, but along with meditation, we also evolve in the spiritual understanding in Vihangam Yoga journey. So if one will just put an effort in meditation, but would not spiritually evolve themselves into the higher dimension of life, then it may be difficult. And that is why our Guru did not say that the pillars of spirituality is just meditation. He said pillars of spiritual growth is three: the meditation practice, the attendance in Swarved, and the seva. So when all these three go together hand in hand, what it simply does it allows us to transform from being self-centered to being a person who loves serving humanity. More you detach yourself from your own liking and disliking and start getting connected to the happiness which anybody derives out of serving others. The moment you start changing the mode of how you get the happiness from being selfish to being serving, you still do not compromise on the level of peace and the satisfaction that you get. Or maybe you will rather find that by changing in the mode of thinking about others, serving others, when you go into that mode, you'll feel that it is even more satisfactory. Only problem is changing into that mode is not that easy, not that possible just by being, closed in a room and just meditating on your own. Because when you're meditating on your own, we are again very being very selfish in this regard. So, and let's say there's no exposure to the spiritual context, meaning there's no satsang. So what happens is the human is not able to evolve out of their very narrow vision of life. They think that this is what the life is. What is my loss? What is my gain? Everything my will continue. What is happening to me in this life? Why this happened to me? Why this? Why that? Everything will still surround around me and my and mine. So when we start talking about the spiritual concepts, not only it build up a higher vision of the life, automatically will start rising above this mundane loss and gain, because your focus will change. Your focus will be no more towards what you lost, what you gained, but automatically you will start realizing that there is a bigger goal, the bigger opportunity that I should not compromise. Let me compromise on maybe little thing which is very physical in nature, but I must not compromise on the bigger opportunity that I have received as a human being. So when the focus is little wider and the vision is little higher than what people are, you know, confined within these days, then automatically the raga starts diminishing down. The vairagya automatically starts rising up. And by vairagya, we not we do not, of course, we certainly do not lose our efficiency to prosper in what you are doing. Rather, we are becoming more efficient in what we are doing. But by being efficient, whatever output starts coming to you, you are not looking towards it, because it is happening. It's just happening that you're now prospering, but your attention is not towards prosperity. Your attention is towards the higher vision of life. You just want to become a very beautiful human being. You're working on just evolving yourself as a human being who have kindness, who is soft spoken, who has patience, who has forgiveness. You're working on those. And while you're having your attention on evolving yourself as a better human being, the byproduct is that your life is getting better, your productivity is getting better. You are just not paying attention to it. So when your attention is not towards it, automatically things are getting better, but your attention has now drifted from loss and gain. It has now gone towards the bigger, the higher vision of life. So the only way to get rid of raga and remain inspired, unaffected by the loss and gain, is to become spiritual. If people think that I can control myself, you know, I can control myself, I don't need to be spiritual in nature. Um, it will work on certain extent. I don't say that it will not work on certain extent, but by being spiritual does not mean that you have to connect with a spiritual guru, then only you become spiritual. By being spiritual here means to to rise above your physical nature. You rise above your physical need. That is how you're raising yourself to the spirit. So if anybody who is not connected to any guru, but just by his spirit, by the nature of his spirit, he feels more connected to serving others. By being in the mood of serving others, he is already getting spiritual. He is not even connected to any spiritual guru, but he, by his deeds, by his thought, by his speech, he is actually already molding himself to being a spiritual person than than a person who is still greedy of things and this and that. So in a way, it is right to say that the only way to go beyond the influence of raga and dvesha is to mold your character, to change yourself from being a person who looks for uh, tiny loss and gain to become a spiritual being. And and in that transformation, the seva, satsang, and sadhana, all three play the role. Just sadhana is not sufficient. You need satsang, because only with satsang your sanskara changes. When you attend satsang, you hear something very spiritual in nature. By that, your physicality actually starts subsiding down. Your those the petty physical desires will start subsiding down, and your spiritual nature will start evolving. That is the beauty of satsang. That's why our guru says that sadachar vyabhichar se, meaning that your all the characteristics which were so petty, so selfish, will subside down, and sadachar means all the good virtues will start rising just by attending satsang wholeheartedly. Sadachar vyabhichar se मूर्ख से विद्वान और भोगी से yogi bane फल सत्संग महान. Who is bhogi? Bhogi is the one who is suffering with raga. And who is yogi? Yogi is one who is enjoying his vairagya. So bhogi se yogi, that transformation, everything is related to the state of our chitta. And the state of our chitta is changed by the regular shower of satsang. Satsang is a shower. More you take the shower of satsang, more your mind will change, more your chitta will change, and more your thoughts and desires will change. So just meditation, I won't think it is enough for a person who is in a state where you're not naturally driven towards the the God realization, but one who has earnest desire to know the God, he is a different person. Then he will be guided by the divine eternal master, and divine eternal master will be always in company with that person, guiding him. And and so satsang is already happening to that guy, because the guru is always with that person. And then that person will be meditating all the time, because he's having such a deep desire to know the God. The guru is always with him, the satsang is always happening. He has already earned all the punya of seva in the previous birth. That's why this birth he is just born to complete his remaining journey. So that person is a different person. That person will just meditate, and the raga is not even in question. He is not meditating because he has to kill raga. No, raga is already not in question. The raga is already gone by birth itself. By birth itself, he is vairagi. Such a person can spend time in meditation and achieve the goal. But if the question is about having control on raga, then just meditation is not enough. We have to do seva, we have to do sadhana, we have to do satsang.
Thank you so much. That's very enlightening. Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to next slide. Mind deprives the soul of true devotion. We had discussed little bit on this before. Mind deprives the soul of true devotion. What does it mean? It means that As long as we are in the clutch of the mind, then it is something like remaining confined in an enclosed space, and all you can see is what is visible through the opening. If you're in the enclosed space, then all you can experience is what is being fed to you in that enclosed space, because you don't have access to everything. You are constrained, you are enclosed. Mind is that enclosure for the soul. As long as the consciousness of the soul does not put an effort to free itself from the clutches of the mind, what is happening is the consciousness of the soul is being constrained, is being restricted only within the limits of what mind has reached to. And mind does not have reached to the true devotion. And that is why if you remain clutched within the limits of the mind, you think that you are doing devotion. Many people think that, wow, when I close my eyes, I remember my Ishwar, my God, any form, any stature. There are so many deities. So in any form, and you feel very good about it, no doubt about it. You feel very good about it. When whoever is your deity, of course, we have such a deep love for our deity that when you remember that deity within your mind with closed eyes, you will certainly feel good about it. But that is the fruit of the devotion, which is prakritic in nature. Whatever this devotion happens within the mind is called the prakritic devotion, prakritic bhakti. This is not called chetan bhakti. So why do we need Chetan Bhakti? If I feel good about just with, by performing my Prakritik Bhakti, if it gives me so much of satisfaction, I feel so much at peace when I remember God in my mind. What is the problem? The problem is this, that you will not be able to sustain that devotion which you call a devotion, because you'll be able to remember God and feel happy only when the mind is in the state of allowing you to connect to that prakritic bhakti. Any mishappening in your life will make your mind very restless. At that point of time, you try to feel happy remembering God. You try to feel happy. You fold your hand, you close your eyes, and just be happy with remembering God. It is easier said than done. Why? Because the fact of the matter is we have not even worked on controlling the mind. So whatever devotion we think the devotion is was actually just the outcome of your mind giving you that experience. You were dependent on the mind to give you that experience. And if you're dependent on something which is so fickle, which is so restless, of course your experience is not going to be lasting. It can give you, sometimes it can give you the experience of devotion, some other time it will give you the experience of suffering, because the mind is capable to give you all experience, not only the prakritic devotion. And that is why, if you think that no, I am already in devotion, when I close my eyes, when I chant, when I dance, I feel so good. My dear friend, you may feel good today, but when your leg will stop working, when your hand will start shaking, when your speech will start shaking, when your teeth will start decaying, when your eyes will start decaying, at that point of time you realize that there is a bondage that I am in. I'm not able to do the thing the way I used to do when I was young, but by then it will be too late. Because the result, if that was the true devotion, then the result of true devotion is the bliss of Almighty, which is never ever going to dissociate from you once you get it. Because true devotion and yoga is synonym to each other. योग भक्ति उपासना एक अर्थ करवाच. In true devotion, the soul and Almighty become one. If that has not happened, then all the devotion that you thought the devotion is was nothing but just one of the act, one of the trick of the mind. And you were in clutch of that trick. Mind just fooled you. And that's why our Guru says, Man ke mandal baith kar खोजे ब्रह्म अनूप और मन प्रकटे वही रूप में विविध कला में रूप. This is the tricks, the play of the mind. The mind will show you the form of the God that you wanted to see in your mind. You wanted to see Vishnu, you have a statue of Vishnu, the mind will show Vishnu. You wanted to see Sri Krishna, and you have a statue of Sri Krishna, mind will produce that statue within you and you feel happy about it. It is something like, a child is asking for something and you just tricked the child and you gave him some toy so that he is misguided. Exactly same thing is happening. In the name of true devotion, the mind is only misguiding us. We think, if in our imagination with closed eyes, even though we feel happy, please understand at least as it is, that the true devotion, the result of true devotion is liberation. Liberation is the result of true devotion. So when you let's say feel happy remembering God in the mind, is it going to give you the technique to liberate yourself? But in true devotion, when the true devotion happens, along with the true devotion happening in you, you also happen to be enlightened with the conscious technique, because the conscious powers unfold to you when you happen to reach in the state of true devotion. Then it is not only the bliss of devotion that happens to you, but also the wisdom of Brahma Vidya unfold to you. The wisdom of how to liberate from the body, from the cycle of life and death at your own will happens to you. So true devotion is a different state. And just feeling joyful, peaceful, happy about remembering God is not the true devotion. That is just the prakritic devotion. Is there any comment on this? Any question on this? Okay. So 1 to 16 of Swarved says, all knowledge and vairagya of modern spiritual organizations are within the mind, and the mud of karma cannot be cleansed by the mud itself. Because whatever you do within the periphery of the mind is nothing but the karma itself. You're already caught in the karma, and the devotion is the opposite of karma. Devotion is the opposite of karma. Devotion is the one that cleanses the mud of karma. But if people think that thinking about God in the mind is going to cleanse me of karma, it is as good as saying that you are having the mud all around your body and you're trying to cleanse it with the mud itself. Is it going to happen? Of course, it is not going to happen. The mud of karma cannot be cleansed by the mud itself. We need pure water of devotion, different from the mud. So mental vairagya does not end the cravings in reality. You feel just, you feel that, I need nothing, but I feel happy just remembering God. This is called mental vairagya. The vairagya which is just temporary. It is just the temporary state of your mind. Your mind has become vairagi temporarily at that moment. That is why it is just mental vairagya. This vairagya is not going to last. The moment some subject comes in front of you, suddenly you realize that, oh, I have raga for it. You start having craving for it, and then you forget that you were vairagi. And that's why our guru says that mana क्षणिक वैराग ले चढ़े उतुंग आकाश और तुरत राग में गिरत है सद्गुण जीव विनाश. So mental vairagya is actually not a lasting state. It does not end the craving in reality. It's just that the subject is not in front of you. So for that moment, you're able to get your mind in the state of vairagya. But the moment the subject comes in front of you, the raga will again germinate and you'll just forget about the vairagya. You'll go for it. You will also lose the good virtues. Suddenly you will start having ill thought within yourself because the state that you thought the vairagya is was nothing but just the state of the mind. The real vairagya is not the state of the mind. The real vairagya is the state of the soul. Your soul has to be in that wisdom. Your soul has to be in that knowledge, in that wisdom, in that purity, where the mind is just fickle in front of the soul own the consciousness. The mind is just nothing, where the mind has no role. When the soul is in that spiritual strength, that is where the real vairagya happens. In 1 to 18, our Swarved says, as long as one is with mind, one is deprived of devotion. Devotion is the subject of pure consciousness based on paravairagya. Parvairagya. It's based on parvairagya. It is a real experience beyond the field of mind, not within the imagination of the mind. Okay. So therefore, there is a need to dissolve. There is a need to dissociate the consciousness from the mind for the what is inner devotion, for the devotion which is very pure in nature. We need to dissociate from the mind, and that is why the real devotion, the true devotion, unfolds only when a Vihangam yogi rises beyond the third stage of Vihangam yoga. The real journey of Vihangam Yoga begins with the fourth stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation, where the consciousness is set free from the mind. And then what remains is the realm of consciousness. There is no material in your experience in that state when your consciousness has gone beyond your 10th door in the process of meditation. And in that state, all of a sudden, your mind becomes pure and it loses all its cravings in that state of pure consciousness. So parvairagya, which is a state of soul in the realm of consciousness, is what is the lasting experience of vairagya. Okay, any question, any comment? Okay, now the question is, how is mind restless? No matter how many times I discuss about it, no matter how many times you hear about it, but mind gets restless. Why? Because it is receiving subjects from somewhere, and by nature the mind will go for the subject that it receives. So by nature it roams into subject if it is set free. If the mind is set free, by nature it will go for the subject, because that is what is the nature of the mind. And the more we engage mind with the subjects, the more it will develop the craving for the subject. So when we say engaging mind, by engaging mind here means to have the raga for the subject. How do you engage mind? Only mind, not your actions, only mind. When the subject is not there, you're not actually utilizing your indriyas to perform certain actions, but you're just engaging your mind. More you contemplate about the subject, more you just reproduce the same subject in your mind consciously, more you are engaging your mind into it. One is called efficient use of the mind. The moment you say that this term, the efficient use of the mind, it simply means that you as a controller are using your mind efficiently for achieving something. Here you become the controller, not the mind. And when you are in that state where you are the controller and mind is just a tool for you, then you are better, you're more productive, you're more efficient in doing anything that you want. But if you lose this control, you are just not that conscious. You're just not that conscious. Moment you're not that conscious in the present moment, that is the symptom of your mind to be set free. You're not conscious in the present moment only because you have set your mind free. That is why you're not conscious in the present moment. And when we are not conscious in the present moment, when the mind is set free, that is why there is restlessness. Because the moment mind is set free, by nature, it will engage with the subject. And where does the subject rise? Subject will rise from the chitta. The chitta has all the subject from not only this life, but from all your previous life. And that is why if we are semi-conscious, mind starts capturing the subject from chitta, and so the mind is restless. So by this we understand that if chitta is constantly rising the vrittis, mind is capturing the vrittis, or mind is working with the chitta to allow the vritti to rise only because we have not practiced to remain in the present moment. We have not practiced to remain in the present moment. What does Vihangam Yoga level 1 does? Vihangam Yoga level 1 does exactly this to fix this issue. It enhances your ability to remain in the present moment. When you concentrate on the focal point, what are you trying to do? You have nothing else to do there. You have been asked just to live in the present moment. You have been given one focal point. All you're trying to do is enhance your ability to contain the mind in the present moment. So more you practice this, more our awareness level, more our ability to remain in the present moment enhances. This happens very naturally. And when that enhances, automatically the restlessness of the mind starts diminishing down. And that is why just satsang is also not enough. How hard you try, I mean, how much more you listen about this, that, we need to be restful and all, but without practice, without practicing to control your mind, to remain in the present moment, this is not going to become a reality. So with satsang, sadhana is also equally important. We need to practice the first stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation to tame the mind from being restless to become mindful, to become in a state where mind will remain in the present moment. Okay,
Uh,
any? Yeah,
yes, a huge question, and this is a very complex subject. I think this drives everything. This is Madan Bhandari again.
yes,
Uh, what you're saying is that because, first of all, I want to clarify that when you use the word you, who you are, what you mean by you. Is it you mean the soul? You
yeah,
mean the body? I mean, who is controlling the mind here? Is it the soul that is controlling the mind, or
yes,
vice versa?
yeah. So you means the soul. You means the soul.
But the question is that the soul is unable to drive things because mind is driving the soul in a way here, because mind keeps you restless, mind takes you everywhere. And it's the mind, it's the whole illusion, whole game is of mind. So let me just complete my thought here. My question is twofold. One is to clarify on this, that how you can have mind under control, meaning how soul can control the mind, and that should be the way it should be. But I don't know how to do that. But the question is, you said mind is a tool. You should be able to use it as a tool under your control. And by that, what I'm inferring is that you should be able to use your mind selectively, which means regardless what you do to live your life, to do things that you do on a day-to-day basis, you need the mind, because mind is the one that pulls all the experiences from chitta. And so there are two sides of that: positive experiences and negative experiences. Mind becomes restless when it is getting involved in those either negative experiences or disturbing experiences from the chitta, and it keeps you involved, and that's when you become restless. But on the flip side, on the positive side, the mind is a tool that is very much needed in everything that you do. So to be careful in day-to-day life, you're not falling in a ditch, you're not meeting with an accident, you're avoiding all those situations, and that's all based on your experiences, past learnings. Your mind alerts you with everything. And on the work front, you are doing your things, your experiences are drawn from the chitta, so that you are able to write that code, or you are able to do that next creation, or whatever you are doing on the creative side or positive side to perform or accomplish your day-to-day work. So mind is constantly in play. There's no way that you can separate mind from one activity to another. But in between, mind does its tricks, and it goes and does all those unproductive things that you're talking about, where the mind becomes restless. So how do you really? I wished it was a software. You click a button. Okay, mind, just go, stop, don't do anything right now. I'm working on this. And you said that by being in present, that's what you're trying to achieve. Uh, I still find it very difficult to envision that you can separate the two things which are so integrally interlinked and connected. If you may
well,
enlighten me, thank you.
yes, yes, very, very nicely said. Very nicely said, Madanji. Very happy that you're going so granular in understanding this. Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, let's say you are being driven by the mind. When I say driven by the mind, meaning that mind is getting you into imagining things, and you're just getting flown into the emotions that it is creating, because it is reproducing you certain experience, certain cravings, and everything is happening. Suddenly, boom, you hear something. What happens? The moment you hear something, boom, something as if some emergency, what happens at that point? Just tell me, what do you think will happen at that point? Will you be lost into and being controlled by the mind at that point? When some boom, some emergency things happen, you become just
Obviously not.
attentive.
Yeah,
You
obviously.
just become attentive. Oh, what has happened?
Yes.
So what it means is, the moment you become conscious, right then and there, the mind is in your clutch. It is all about being conscious and unconscious. All we need to work upon is to remain conscious all the time. That is the only way you can have a grip on your mind in your day-to-day life. Only problem is we are not doing any practice to stay in the state of consciousness all the time. And that is why while you are paying attention, while you're attentive of something, while you're attentive of something, you're basically doing nothing but staying conscious of something. And when you're conscious of something, your mind is in your control. But only when you lose your attentiveness, that means you lose the consciousness of the present moment. That is when the mind is then set free to take your consciousness, to steal your consciousness into some other subjects. So don't allow your consciousness to be stolen by the mind and taken into something that you did not desire at that point. You wanted to stay focused, you decided to stay focused on something. So that is where your consciousness should be. But because we sometimes are not that attentive of what we are doing, we are not paying attention to how my hand is moving, how my eyes are moving, how my speech is going. You're not very attentive of what is happening with you. You're not very aware. Your awareness level is not there at everything that you're doing. That is when you're not in the present moment. So all we need to do is to enhance our ability to stay conscious all the time. And this is where the practice of meditation helps. And the practice of meditation does not mean to just sit in meditation pose and looking at the focal point. The practice of meditation continues even after that. Because when you are trying to stay alert all the time, that is also in a way assisting process of meditation itself. So we need to practice it. We need to just not allow mind to take over us every time. If you're just attentive, but who will be attentive? Who is very eager to be attentive? Only when you are very eager to be attentive, when you know that how important it is for me to always stay alert and attentive, it is only then you will put an effort towards it. And that is why the wisdom is what help you keep your intellect always on alert. The wisdom keeps your intellect always on alert. And when your wisdom and when your intellect is on alert, this is how you're staying, you're ready to control the mind when it starts, detracking you from what you're doing. So wisdom, satsang, all these, the motivation that you get out of hearing something, you know, through all this, what is happening is some wisdom which was there within you has awakened again. You have heard it several times. We have heard it several times, but we, tend to then just suppress that understanding, and something else takes over. So when this understanding is again, kind of brought into the surface, then you are again in the influence of that understanding. And when you're in the influence of that understanding, then your desire, your eagerness, your effort will be aligned to it. So understanding, the wisdom, the knowledge is the supreme. More you stay in the knowledge, in the wisdom, more you will be ready to perform and put an effort towards something which is more favorable for the soul. But if you don't, if we stop attending satsang, if you stop doing seva and all that, then automatically, the nature will turn towards more being fickle with the mind. Your mind will start getting more restless and all. It's all correlated. So the short answer to your question was just this, that the moment we become attentive, actually your consciousness is now aligned to something that you want to achieve. And wherever you want to draw your consciousness towards, your mind is bound to go towards that. Mind is like a boat floating in the flowing water of consciousness. Mind is a boat flowing in the water of consciousness. So of course your boat will not be able to go anywhere else if the water is not there. Only when you allow the water to flow towards where the boat is trying to sail, when the water is there to support the boat, then only the boat will go towards that. If the water is redirected into something else, then automatically the boat also will go towards that. So
Great
just
explanation. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
There's two related things just thought of. So one is maybe that's the reason they coined the word chit chore, like some you said
Right.
stealing the
Absolutely.
consciousness.
Right.
uh, and the flip side of what we're discussing here is sometimes you go into and mind takes you into an imaginary world, call it fantasy, and you delve into fantasies. You feel so good, it gives you a temporary happiness. Is that a no-no in this process and in this journey, or that's okay sometimes to enjoy things that you are not able to enjoy in the real world, you know, in whatever way, like,
All right. Yeah, I
you
understand.
travel or somewhere, or you're going, in your fantasy world. Thank you.
Right. Absolutely. Now, there is another thing that people think. People will start thinking, does it mean that I should not use the imaginative power at all in my life? So there are two things that happens. One is where you are controlling your imagination, where you're not just lost into imagination, but rather you're using your mind to come up with some creativity, where you are the in charge. You're just trying to use the raw material from chitta, and the mind is just weaving that together, and you are controlling it. So that is called the constructive use of your imagination and controlled use of imagination. That is something different. But what is a strict no-no is when you just set loose. The mind is just set free to take you into anything that is automatically. You're just semi-conscious. That's what I'm trying to say. You're just lost your moment of presence, and you are simply lost into something which mind is just showing you. And then suddenly you realize, as if you are dreaming. Oh, you woke up. All of a sudden you woke up. Oh my God, I was just dreaming. You woke up. This very state of losing your consciousness is not a good practice to have, because more you enrich or allow that to happen, more you are strengthening the restlessness of the mind. And so at one place we are trying to attain the control over mind. At other place, if we keep practicing the restlessness of the mind, then there'll be no progress. There'll be no progress.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vijay Kumarji,
Yes.
this is Timaya. I just want to bring a little different perspective for this same thing what we are talking. One is basically we are Rogi, Bogi, and Yogi. So we are bogis, and we could become rogis if we go outward, and if we become yogi if we go turn our attention towards the uh, Parabrahma. So one way the meditation takes us to the higher field of awareness or experience. At that time, you dissolve your looking at the world as a nama, rupa, desha, kala, jati, niti. All these conditioning of our mind, they get dissolved when you are in the higher state of the experience when you meditate. So from that awareness, if you function and you have a antakarana is consists of soul, whatever you call, chitta, ankara, manassu, and deha. So manassu and deha, these are the instruments. So soul is using, and so ankara is a misidentification that you are limited. So if you change your uh, identification to say that it is your divine force is flowing through these instruments and simplifying your antakarana or purifying your antakarana, and your life experience becomes much more enjoyable, and you become more productive in the world, and so you contribute to the people, and at the same time you enjoy yourself, or you stay in the blissful state. So goal of all this adhyatma vidya is transforming the personality of each individual to simplify the mind, and keeping the healthy body, healthy mind, and functioning through those healthy body and mind to serve others. So satsang basically it gives knowledge, to some extent sharing of different thoughts. Maybe Sadguru has started the thoughts long back. Adi Guru, Shiva started, we don't know when the Guru Parampara started. So from one mind to another, this knowledge is flowing. How to be happy, how to be blissful. So we are all in the same flow, the different places. So we coming together, so many people to propagate this thought is also a collective force working through all of us. So at the end, basically, we each individual goal is to elevate ourselves, but other people are scaffolding. We are all, each one we give a support to our fellow beings, and so that's how I see the antakarana shuddhi is the mental transformation, and so yoga is basically making your body healthy and mind healthy and functioning in the world. So somehow I that's how I concept I apply in my life. Hope I brought some point across. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Timiyaji, for your input. Yeah, just to bring it into Vihangam Yoga context. In Vihangam Yoga, first of all, it is very evident in the experience of Vihangam Yoga that there is an eternal master. So when we say Adi Guru, our Guru asked this very question in Swarved itself. Brahma Vidya Aru Yoga ka Adi Guru hai kaun? Who is the first preacher of Brahma Vidya and Yoga? And then he also answers it. And then he points towards the existence of an eternal master called Nityanadi Sadguru. So whether, I mean, I don't know, you gave a name called Shiva for that, but in Vihangam Yoga context, we call it Nityanadi Sadguru. So
Yeah,
if you're
it's all names
yeah,
and for there are
correct,
knowledge. Yeah.
right. It's just about the name. So I'm saying that in Vihangam Yoga context, we call it Nitya Anadi Sadguru, the one who is eternal. Nitya means eternal,
Yeah.
Anadi means who has no beginning, and the Guru means Guru. So Nitya Anadi Sadguru is the eternal master who is always there when even the creation is not there, even when the deities are not there, the eternal masters still are there. And even the creation goes into pralaya, even after that, the eternal master continue to exist. So eternal master is a separate entity. He is the reason why the Brahma Vidya and Yoga is brought to the earth in every era, because he is responsible for bringing the flow of Brahma Vidya and and the concept of true yoga in onto the earth, every time when it goes into oblivion. Now, yeah, so how is mind restless? I think we understood a bit. And Madanji, very beautiful questions that really added value to the discussion. We have 18 more minutes to go. Any other question on this?
Vijay ji, mind has gone to so many topics right now. So if we have to bring back to the original topic, how to do it?
Yeah, so yeah, that is correct. So the only way to bring mind to a topic is to pay attention to the topic. Only when we pay attention to a topic, the mind will stay there. So yes, the reason it has gone into several topic because that also says mind is related to so many things. Everything that is happening in our life is all through the mind. Whether it is the experience of sorrow, the experience of happiness, experience of suffering, experience of achievement, physical achievement, everything is all because of the power of the mind. So that is why we happen to touch on so many dimensions when we start talking about the mind. So why to control the mind? Why is the need to control the mind? The need for controlling the mind is for the fact that if we let the mind stay restless, then all it does is it continues to attach our consciousness with the worldly subject. Now, what is the problem? What is the problem in being attached to the worldly subject all the time? The problem is this, that maybe in terms of our materialistic life, you feel that, well, that's what I needed. I needed to be always connected to the materialistic subject. I'll just try to work on maybe bettering a little bit control on my mind. That's enough. I don't need to have full control on mind. What is the need of full control of my mind? Well, the idea here is we're talking about Vihangam Yoga. Vihangam Yoga takes our vision of life into higher dimension. It says that the purpose of the human life is not only to become very effective human being, but by becoming effective human being, we also need to make the best use of the human opportunity. And what is the human opportunity that the soul has got? The soul has got the human opportunity not only to do the best for this mortal land by offering all the seva that it can, but also liberate from the cycle of life and death, also to realize who you are, also to realize who the God is. What is the land that I have come from? What is that I truly desire from inside? What is that is going to make me completely blissful? So to evolve into those dimension, which is the dimension of consciousness, it is the prerequisite that your mind is first to be set in complete control. If your mind doesn't come to complete control, the dimension of consciousness is not going to be unfolded to you ever. And this is why to end the bondage with the worldly subjects, you need to control the mind. To set the consciousness free from the the mind, you need to control the mind. So I mentioned here that to end the bondage with worldly subject, the spirituality is about unfolding the hidden truth about the self that is otherwise shadowed by the impressions of the worldly subjects bombarded by the mind. You never get into a situation of calmness where you can draw your attention towards your true self, because you always remain you know attack under the attack by the mind, where it is bombarding you the worldly subjects. You're just trying to receive the subject, defend the subject. You're just engaged with the worldly affairs all the time because of the mind. So we need to control it. So to set the consciousness free from the mind, meaning to be able to pull consciousness inward for paving the path of true inner bliss, for paving the path towards the devotion and liberation. It is a prerequisite that the mind be in a complete stillness in meditation. This is why we need to work on achieving the complete stillness of the mind. Any question on this?
Yes. Hi, Vijayji. Monica here. So, can we say that controlling the mind is almost like having a new mind state? Uh, in retrospective to that, I was just thinking that when we meditate and we focusing at the focal point, after the initial few seconds or even a minute or two, we do get into a state where we don't have any thoughts, nothing is running in the background. It's just that our vision and our focus is just at the tip of the nose. So in that state, we are just, after we have prayed to Sadhguru and we've surrendered, we have devotion in our hearts, we have done all of that. And after a few seconds or even few minutes later, I feel that, okay, we have a no mind state. And in that, it's just, we just feel that we're just looking. I feel that I'm looking at the tip of the nose, and it's just consciousness that I'm just looking. I'm aware, and that's it. There's nothing else in the background. Nothing is running in the background. So if we have to be in that state, say even for day or one day, for the whole one day, from morning to evening, how can we attain that? Is it possible by just doing what comes to us at that moment in time? In the morning, you're not having any thoughts, you're not trying to put your mind in any imaginations or what you have to do later in the day or what happened yesterday. You're not having any of that, and you're just doing what you're supposed to do in that moment in time. So say if someone is able to do that for even just one day, can I say that we have, that person has lived with a no mind state and still being able to do what we are supposed to do in the day? Can I say that it's just the consciousness that's what's running? Like, how do I interpret that? And so the question is that state possible? Like, we learn it through meditation, and if we want to implement it in that just one day.
Sure. First of all, let's understand this, that when your first question is it a state of the mind? Yes, it is a state of the mind, because based on what you have tamed the mind to become, the mind becomes like that. Its liking, disliking, its craving, everything is tameable, it's changeable. The things that you involve more into, the mind will get towards that, and it will disengage from something else that you were earlier engaged in. So that is how you change the state of the mind all the time. So when one starts practicing meditation religiously, automatically that is what is called the state of vairagya. Automatically the state of vairagya will start rising from within. And when the state of vairagya rises from within, there is a natural state of having no pull towards the subject in the mind. So when something like that happens, this is not the state of no mind. This is just the state of vairagya. It's just the state of vairagya where nothing is pulling the mind. Rather, you are still using the mind into something that you want to use it into. What is the state of no mind, which is the state of consciousness? That is the state in which your mind is dissolved into its source. The state of no mind happens in the state of meditation when you attain the fourth stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation, where the mind is dissolved to its source called Akshar Brahm, and the mind is left behind. Your consciousness is set free from the mind. In that state, what remains in your experience is the consciousness, because mind vanishes, and so the world vanishes for you. The experience of the world and the worldly subjects vanishes in that state of no mind. So when you're talking
So,
about literally the no mind state, the no mind state is a state in which you are in the experience of consciousness, but not of any experience of the world. Thank
so that happens only at the fourth stage. And
you.
does that
Yes.
only happen in the meditative state?
Yes. So that happens in the meditative state. Now you'll ask me that once, let's say, you have attained the union with Almighty, okay? Let's say you have raised your consciousness, you have set it free from the mind, and then you go further into the fourth and the fifth stage. When you reach the fifth stage and you just achieve that state, or the state of union with Almighty, what happens at that point? Will the experience of world and the subject around me will vanish forever? No. So what happens at that point is the soul has got eight suratis. Eight suratis. Surati, I believe you guys still understand. It's the rays of consciousness. So what happens is a Jivan Mukti yogi, meaning the one who have attained the union with Almighty, what he does is his Ashtam Surati, the eighth Surati, remain engaged, remain in union with the Almighty. But rest of the seven Suratis, they return back to the body, taking the mind and breath back in the body. So now your state is that your Ashtam Surati, the eighth Surati, the eighth rays of consciousness is always having the bliss of Almighty, meaning the soul is in the bliss of Almighty. But at the same time, it is making the best use of the other faculties of the body to do the worldly activities with the rest of the seven Surati. So only when the surati is brought back in the body, along with the mind, along with the breath, it is only then the worldly experience will come back. If the mind is left in the source and you have never brought it back into your attention, into consciousness, in union with consciousness, if the consciousness is not making use of the mind and it is just keeping the consciousness disengaged from the mind, then in that state of being disengaged from the mind, you will not experience the world. You will experience only consciousness.
So basically, one at that stage may just forget to get back. Can that happen?
So one day when Sadguru Dhamchand Devji Maharaj, when he was meditating in the fourth stage of Vihangam Yoga, he happened to dissolve his mind and breath to its source, and then he started finding the limits of the consciousness in the sea of consciousness that he was floating in. And then he found that he thought that why the guru has asked to stay on, to hold on to the thread of Makartar. Why is it important to just stay on to the thread of Makartar? Why not just go beyond? And he left that track and moved his consciousness to explore the boundary of supreme consciousness. Now, in that effort, when he wanted to come back, he was not able to reach into that domain where he could get hold of his mind and breath. So even though he was willing to bring back his consciousness in the body, he was putting an effort for it. it became a problem for him. He was not able to get back. And that is when he remembered Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj. At that point of time, Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj was at some other place. And Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj immediately took the two heavy breath like this. And the disciple who was next to him saw this. And then the Guru said, when he came back to the ashram, he said, Mahatma, he used to say Dharmchandji Maharaj as Mahatma. He said, Mahatma, the limits that even the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, when they could not measure the limit of the boundary, who are you to measure it? So that is why in Vihangam Yoga there is a a, a, a a zone given for our consciousness to keep. If you keep your consciousness beyond that zone, then it will go uncontrolled. And this is the reason why when you are moving your consciousness beyond your body, then it is even more important to do that practice only under the canopy of the power of Sadguru.
But when the consciousness has gone beyond that, isn't that the objective of all this thing? Like we want to be liberated and we don't want, why do we want to come back to the body or the world? If you are already liberated, if you are in that consciousness, if you're dissolved in the consciousness. So, you know, and
So
basically at that point of time, is it the consciousness that is desiring to come back? Because it's literally the mind that pulls you towards the worldly things. Why would consciousness even want to come back to the world if it is already gone beyond it?
yes,
Sorry for my rhetorical question, but
no. It's very, very important question. So this brings up to a point where I need to clarify that the fourth stage of meditation, where you see the omnipresent consciousness, where you get lost into the vibrating consciousness all around, is actually not of the Almighty. So even though the soul is trying to explore the boundary of that consciousness, which is the consciousness of Akshar Brahm, it is not the consciousness of Almighty there. It is the consciousness of Akshar Brahm, which itself is omnipresent, which itself is within the zone of creation everywhere. So that's why it's called Madhyam Purush. So what that soul is exploring is not the Uttam Purush, not the Supreme Being, not the bliss of Almighty, but it is trying to explore the boundary of Akshar Brahm, which is again everywhere. That consciousness is everywhere. So of course that is not satisfying for the soul. Soul is not going to be satisfied by exploring the boundary of Akshar Brahm. And so of course that is just a milestone. It is not the satisfactory moment for the soul. Had it been
But
the fifth stage where you are in the bliss, along with the bliss of Almighty comes all the wisdom, comes the state of Jivan Mukta. And when you are in Jivan Mukta, then you are the complete in charge of everything, not only about you, but about you, everything. You just are in the state of enlightenment, where then nothing else remains unknown to you. Then everything is so sahaj, so everything is at ease. You're just not restless about anything at all. You just remain connected with the supreme consciousness, and the rest of the consciousness comes back to perform the worldly service. So you're in a different mode then, but that's not the mode that one get into when one explores like this in the fourth stage of Vihangam Yoga. So that's a different thing. Yes, Madanji.
right. Thank you.
also, just wanted to answer to Madanji's question when he asked that if our consciousness is already like freed and enjoying the bliss, why would it want to come back? So isn't also we know that, like you said, this only would happen in a meditative state. So in the meditative state, when we, a part of our consciousness knows that it's time to get back to the body to do whatever we're supposed to do. That's when we come back, right? And that's what you mentioned. It's the Jivan Mukta state, the fifth stage, right? So all of this is happening in a meditative state, right? All of this is happening when you're meditating.
Right.
If I get it correctly, like back to my question, you mentioned that if in the day, if we try to stay in the same state we were in our meditative state, we are not in a no mind state. We are still we are using our mind to drive our consciousness to get our tasks done during the day. So it's not a no mind state. We are only able to achieve a no mind state when we are in a meditative state.
Right. Yes.
Right. So so Madanji, does that clarify that we a part of our consciousness knows that in the process of meditation we need to come back, because if we don't come back, that means our bodies, basically we don't have consciousness back to our body. So how are we going to resume our worldly kartavyas or tasks? How we going to do it if we don't come back?
Yeah, thank you.
Just that's okay. Thank you so much. Anyway, time is up, so we'll continue the discussion next week. Thank you all for being part of it. I request Isha ji to conclude with the Shanti part.
Thank you, Vijay ji. Shanti Pat. हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांति मैं शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांति मैं शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व शांति। देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। बोले सद्गुरुदेव की जय। बैक टू विजय जी।
Thank you, Isha ji. Thank you, everybody. See you again next week, 3 p.m. Sunday. Thank you.